Thank you, Gretchen. Isn't that energizing? Don't you love the metaphoric value of that song? I can see clearly now the rain has gone. What are we saying about that? By the way, I'm Reverend Kirk Moore. I know you know that, most of you. And Reverend Sandy is up at a conference in Asilomar, so I have the pleasure of speaking this morning to you. And I asked Gretchen to open with that song because it leads right into our topic this morning about seeing beyond the exterior. Many times in life, we tend to just look at the appearance, not knowing what is beyond that. And what is beyond that is the truth. Now, we don't know it at first, but if we delve a little deeper, if we look within ourselves and others a little deeper, if we look within the circumstances a little deeper, we will truly find the truth of what is behind that exterior. It was interesting. I read this article about a nun and a priest that were traveling back from some conference. Okay, you can see this coming. I can't keep a straight face. Their car broke down in a small town with only one hotel. This hotel only had one room. And the priest and the nun said, well, you know, I think the Lord would understand these circumstances, that we share this room. The priest said, I'll take the lounge and you can have the bed. They agreed. No problem. So they get into their respective places to go to sleep. And the priest hears the nun say, Father, I'm very cold. And the priest says back to the nun, no problem, I'll get you a blanket. And he does. 10 minutes later, the nun says, Father, I'm still very cold. The priest says, no problem, I'll get you another blanket. And he does so. So, about 10 minutes later, the nun says, you know, Father, I don't think the Lord would mind if just one night in this situation we act as husband and wife. I'm still very cold. And the priest says, I absolutely agree with you. Get your own blanket. Okay, I'm not here to do stand-up comedy, but I ran across that and I thought that was very clever about perceptions of things and how we view life, how we view one another. You know, we teach that there is a power for good in the universe. And we call that good God. That is the basic principle of our teaching that Ernest Holmes established. So we know that this good in the universe is our good. And as we embrace that basic truth, we can show up differently in our lives. I want to read you something from A Course in Miracles about challenges and obstacles. I know some of you are involved in our Monday evening Course in Miracles class, or maybe have been in the past. And this really to me sums up how we have free will, the choice to look at various situations, circumstances, and or challenges in a higher consciousness. Any situation in your life that you regard as a problem can be perceived in two ways. One is through your ego self, and the other is through your God self. You can let your ego self take control and allow it to grow this problem into the most chaotic situation imaginable. You can stress, worry, blame, and separate yourself from others. Your ego self will let this problem or issue grow, even affecting relationships with those around you who had nothing to do with it in the first place. Or you can choose to trust God. If you work through your God self, you will understand that this problem has been presented as an opportunity for growth. Forgive yourself and be grateful for the experience. Trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. So where you made a faulty choice before, you can now make a better one. and thus escape all the pain that your previous choices brought to you. That's how we have free will and choice to look at things. We tend to worry. Worrying is praying for something you don't want. Think about it. We teach about affirmation. We teach about the power of our words and our thoughts, that they have domain to our experience. Worrying is praying for something you don't want. So what can we do to shift that? Well, first, Sandy and I just finished teaching a class, No Excuses, No Regrets. Some of you were involved in that. And we have many bad habits of negative thinking, holding on to thoughts and beliefs that don't serve us and never will. And we have the awareness to create a parallel path. That old habit may never go away. However, we can create another parallel path that is a higher road. So when we find ourselves slipping into that limited thinking, that negative thinking, we can say, no, I don't want to go there, and choose the other road. I guarantee you, once you retrain yourself, behavior modification, once you retrain yourself, you can then take the higher road, create the better experience for yourself. That is one of the key principles of our teaching. Change your thinking, change your life. How do you perceive your world? What happens to us, 10% of what happens to us is what's happening to us. 90% of that is how we perceive it. So it's our perception that we can shift and therefore create that new experience that we're looking for. There is a story that I heard probably 20 years ago when we were involved with our home church at that time. Our minister shared a story, and for some reason the story stuck with me, because it was how we see something without knowing the whole situation. And it takes place in the ocean. There are these school of fish swimming around, and in the distance they see just one fish, sort of misbehaving, flip-flopping, acting up. These fish think that fish is showing off. And they're making fun of it and just going, boy, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Whereas the truth of that fish had a hook in it, which they could not see. That fish was trying to escape to save its life. They could not see that. So see, we are quick to judge sometimes without having the whole story. And once we get that whole story, once we create the perception to see beyond the exterior, we become more compassionate. And I truly believe that that's what our world is about, is being compassionate. Being that love in action. We talk about God as love, and love is all there is. So we are to embrace that and share that truth in our world and truly make that difference. There's a book called The Eye of the Storm. Has anybody ever read that? A few of you. I don't know if we carry it in the bookstore, do we, Diane? It really talks about the challenges and the perspective that we take on those challenges in our life and how we deal with them and how we move through them. That is for our personal growth. There's a saying that throughout life, pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. So once again, we have free choice. Anyway, in this book, The Eye of the Storm, it says, you have experiences. Experiences don't have you. Your soul moves you toward challenges because they stretch you in ways that separate you from your falsehoods and dependencies. What you discover is that you are not your experiences. You are greater. This distinction, I am not my experience, is a key principle in discovering your wholeness. Often we use our condition or situation as evidence of our well-being and worth. I become less or more because of what happens to me. If I lose my job,